Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to week 8 of this 18-part expansion series. We are global e-commerce experts and here to successfully expand your brand or business into European markets. This week, we are joined by Tom Meek from Payoneer, one of our trusted partners, to talk to us through everything you need to know for cross-border payments. So let's introduce ourselves. So I'm Tommy. I am a European Success Manager here at Global E-commerce Experts. I deal with all our lovely clients, informing them about the services, the regulations that they need to move into Europe. And then I obviously help successfully expand their business into and across all the markets. Tom, nice to have you on.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Can indeed, yes.
Fantastic. So, not sure how I feel about getting introduced as Tom Week, but I'll take it. Hi, guys. My name is Tom Meek, and I am part of the partnerships team here at Payoneer. As it says on screen, I've been in the e-commerce industry for a little over 5 years now. I actually sell on Amazon myself. I've got a Shopify store, albeit very small. I like to keep on top of the trends and really experience, what our sellers go through on a first-hand basis. And previously was working in the accounting and tax, niche of e-commerce that helps thousands of businesses, e-commerce businesses, mostly Amazon, expand into various markets, into different marketplaces, countries, etc. Payoneer are an international payments platform. We assist millions of businesses globally, and we really streamline their payment flows. I'm sure we're going to jump into that in more detail. We're going to try and keep it as relevant as possible. So back over to Tommy.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's kick things off. So can you tell us a little bit about Payoneer and your role within the company?
Yeah, for sure. So as I mentioned, Payoneer is an international payments platform. We have a number of different arms within the company because we are servicing through, the enterprise side and SMBs. We have an enterprise, mass payout section, as well as sort of things like payment orchestration. But for today's session, really focusing in on the SMB market. So really how we're helping e-commerce sellers grow. And as I said, how to really formalize and streamline those payment flows is probably the main use case that we're focusing on, but also how we assist businesses grow with our working capital solution as well. So as I mentioned, I'm sort of more in the partnerships part of the business. So I manage hundreds of channel partners, affiliate partners, and what we do is we work with the likes of local e-commerce experts and provide great services and product solutions for GEs, merchants to be able to expand seamlessly and to save money in the process. So I manage the relationship between the likes of Tommy here and a few of the others at GE. In terms of a little bit about Payoneer, hopefully without boring anyone, we have 5 million customers globally. We have offices in 25 locations all over the world. We're currently dealing with over 200 countries and territories, which is growing very quickly. As I said, there's a number of different areas of the business, but of course, GE are specializing in sort of European expansion, bringing your, let's say, US business over to the UK. So we'll try and keep with some of those use cases to give you some examples of how we can help.
Yeah, exactly. And so let's talk a little bit about more like your product offerings and like the marketplaces that you're working with.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, as I said, Payoneer have a really broad range of services that we offer. In terms of the marketplaces that we assist with, it really can depend on what area we're looking at. I think the most important one for today's session is, of course, we can receive from basically all marketplaces. So if we're talking about Amazon, we're talking about, let's say, Zalando, Bol, whatever marketplaces you're selling on, we allow and facilitate you to get paid locally. Okay, and what I mean by that, we're talking about FX, talking about currency. So if I'm a UK-based business, like I've got my Amazon UK business, I'm selling on Amazon US. Well, Amazon are actually going to pay my bi-weekly disbursements in USD. So instead of me receiving those funds in USD and getting stung on the conversion rate, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, I will actually be paid in the local currency. So really think of us as a bit of a local bank as you bank. Tommy, who do you bank with?
I bank with Nationwide.
Nationwide, fine. So think of us as your nationwide provider for your basically your e-commerce business. So local bank accounts receiving those funds, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail. In terms of like some of the clients we work with, as I said, the vast majority of marketplaces. We're also trusted by some of the world's digital brands such as Airbnb, Booking.com. Facebook, Rakuten, Adobe, Google, etc. So there's a huge list of customers that we currently work with.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at the moment, as there's so many growing marketplaces, especially in the European region, like Allegro, biggest marketplace in Poland, you need to have a payment provider or someone, as you say, who can receive the payments in local currency, just due to the amount of kind of strings that you can have on your bow as an e-commerce seller, especially in this region. So what is the green channel service, and what seller would that typically be for, Tom?
Yeah, good question. So at Payoneer, what we've always tried to achieve is growth, obviously being that vehicle for growth for our customers. We don't want just to provide, like a FX solution, like an e-wallet solution, a working capital solution, and a card solution for e-commerce. So what we really want to do is we want to try and benefit them in other ways, which is more ecosystem led. So what I mean by ecosystem led is what we do when we talk about the green channel is we leverage our relationships, our partnership relationships within the ecosystem. That might be shipping partners, it might be people like global e-commerce experts, it might be there's a whole host of different things, translation firms, 3PL firms, etc. And what the green channel allows us to do is leverage our relationships with those individual companies and put our individual sellers. So let's say I'm a customer of Payoneer now. The green channel allows us to be introduced not only to the ecosystem partners with preferential rates, which will allow them to grow into different markets and have all of the expertise that they need to grow, but it also allows us to introduce them into new marketplaces. So we have obviously a great relationship with a lot of marketplaces outside of where people start, which is typically the Amazons, and maybe Shopify is more of a D2C store. And we have those relationships to be able to put them in place. And then, things as far as exiting your business, maybe you've got an Amazon brand you've built up, you've reached a ceiling. Part of our green channel allows us to be able to introduce you to various acquisition firms within the space as well. So really, where we are a truly global company and we have thousands of partners all over the world, what the green channel allows us to do is really help you get from A to B, whether that's growing, connecting to marketplaces, going to new territories, or exiting the business. A whole host of reasons. Hopefully that's answered the question, Tom.
Yeah, that's a brilliant answer, Tom. And I think what you said at the start there was really important. A lot of people look at, as you mentioned, a bank or something like that. Oh, you've got to have a bank. It's a necessity. You just need it for payments. But what, as a Payoneer do and other like service providers, they will actually assist with the growth of your company, the introductions. It's not what you know, it's a who you know kind of thing as well. So it's that's a really, really brilliant answer, and I think you explained the growth side of it fantastically as well. So moving on, do you offer any services for those that want to sell on both a marketplace and their own D2C like web store, something like Shopify?
Yeah, again, a really interesting point there. So Payoneer, ultimately the core services for the businesses that you typically work with, we have sort of three main products. So let's take an Amazon or Walmart business. The three main products that we offer there is our working capital solution. What is our working capital solution? Well, what it allows us to do is once you've connected your store, so your Amazon store, your Walmart store, Payoneer are then able to offer you an advance on what you're earning through your store. So we have an API that connects with their sales data. let's say I'm earning £100,000 per month from Amazon, let's say in the UK, and also another 100,000 in the US, then we'll be able to offer up to 150% of what they're expecting to receive, okay, as an advance. Now, why would you want that? For things that you're helping them with, maybe they're looking to launch in a new market, they're looking to prep for Q4, so they need additional inventory. They're looking to launch new products. So really, it's a cash flow product. So it helps these e-commerce businesses with perhaps longer sales cycle to get hold of cash quicker when they need it, which of course is going to be optimum for the business. And we have really favorable repayment terms. So, they're fairly short disbursements. So typically our free products are 1 month, 3 month and 6 month products. So they're fairly short term advances. And you pay them back in relation to when Amazon pay you, and it's as a percentage. So I think the biggest risk of when businesses take these sorts of advance or loans, as a lot of people call them, there's set repayment terms based on like a percentage or certain on a volume, on the amount of volume that you've taken. Whereas with our product, it's fairly unique in the way that we would take, let's say, like 35% of whatever you're being paid by Amazon. And the beauty of that is that if you have an off month, we only take that percentage as opposed to having a fixed fee, which will then leave you in more cash flow issues the month after. So it's really considerate of how an e-commerce seller business will be structured. So that's one part of working capital. Again, we're talking about Amazon and Walmart here at the moment. We also have sort of more broadly for marketplace sellers our FX solutions. So an example is, the one I gave earlier, UK-based business, a lot of let's say I'm a US-based business. I'm selling, just about to start on .co.uk, Amazon.co.uk, just about selling in Europe, so euros. What I need for that is I have two options. Option one is that I have Amazon currency conversion, ACC. And what Amazon currency conversion do is that when I start selling in the UK in GBP, and when I start selling in Europe and euros, what will happen is that Amazon will pay me in the local currency where I'm actually selling my products, right? So if I'm selling 100,000 in Europe this month, Amazon will have a balance on my Seller Central and it will say 100,000 euros to be paid. And what Amazon currency conversion will do is if you put your GBP or your USD bank details in, because I'm based in the US in this example, if I put my USD bank details in, because that's the only bank account I have, then what will happen is Amazon will use their currency conversion and they'll implement obviously the exchange rate, but also they'll add a fee on top of that, which typically, in my experience, is between 1.5 and 2%, okay, which is quite a lot when we're working, 15, 20, 25% margins on Amazon. It's a lot to factor in right at the end of the process, purely for that administration fee for them to take it from USD from GBP or Euro back to USD. And the use case for Payoneer to come in here is that we are free to have an account with us. What we will do is give you a USD, a Euro, a GBP, a Canadian dollar, a US dollar, all of these different bank accounts so that you are able to receive locally, which means that when Amazon pay you Euro to Euro, it's a local transfer. There's no fee. When they charge you GBP, you have your GBP details in your Amazon Seller Central. They charge you GBP to GBP. And then after that, you're able to have balances on account. You'll have your USD volume, your GBP volume, your Euro volume, which is typically how most businesses on Amazon use the account. And of course, then you have the benefit of paying your suppliers in local currency if you get charged in a different currency. Or you can manage your currencies as you would in a normal bank, bring them back at much more favorable exchange rates with a really small, typically 0.5% fee. So you can bring all of your currencies back to your home currencies to pay, as I said, pay suppliers, pay freelancers, whatever you might need to do. But remember, you can still keep your Euro and GBP volume in your account so that you might have VAT payments to make. Through global e-commerce experts, you might say this is the VAT due. Payoneer, you can go into your account like you do on Santander or HSBC, whoever you bank with. You can go into your account, type in the amount that you want to pay to the tax office through your Payoneer account and pay them for free. So there's a lot of other use cases as to how we assist there. So I'm rambling on, but and then the last point to go through is the card as well. So we have a commercial card with really favourable cashback incentives. So again, same applies. You've got all of these balances coming in from marketplaces. You can then use those balances and have a physical card. So when you go away, you can use that card. You can put ad spend on it. You can put inventory spend on it, and actually get something in return. So you get that cashback element as well, which differs from depending on what country you're from. So that's how we help marketplaces. Marketplaces aside, a lot of the things I've just went through also apply to Shopify or like typical D2C web store sites as well. Unfortunately, working capital doesn't. It's one of the ones that we're looking to broaden out. So you can't lend based on your Shopify sales currently, but you can use the card, and you can certainly use our FX product, so that e-wallet solution in the same way. So I'd say that if you are a Shopify seller or you're selling on a typical D2C site, then feel free to reach out at the end. I can connect you with someone from our sales team, and they can talk you through what typical savings you'll be able to make by using us.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a brilliant answer, Tom. All 3 points. I think any seller would benefit from hearing that, especially as it's a game of margins, isn't it? Selling online, you know as well as anyone, if you can count the pennies, do you know what I mean? And with the payment solutions, the FX solutions, it's really essential that you are collecting all the money that you can and maximizing your profit on your business. So yeah, how does Payoneer, the onboarding process, work for sellers? What do you require for them, basically, when you're onboarding someone onto Payoneer?
Yeah, good question. So typically our onboarding process only takes around 24 hours, so it's really quick. And so let's say I'm looking to set up a Payoneer account today. What will the process be? Well, you sign up through the Payoneer link or through Global eCommerce Experts for some preferential rates, which we have set up. What then happens is we request some light information, things like your name, company name, all of those sorts of addresses and things, and then we'll ask for some documentation, typical sort of KYC and AML checks that any business would do. Of course, we have licensing, we have certain criteria to fulfill on a AML and KYC perspective. So things like your passports, things like driving licenses, things like proof of address, company information. Maybe it's like an articles of association or company document, just to prove you are who you say you are. And it doesn't really get much more complicated than that. That there may be additional requirements that get triggered based on the business type where you're maybe incorporated. There might be a higher risk associated with certain countries, but typically it's really straightforward. You submit your documents. There might be a questionnaire that you want to fill in, and maybe a link to your Amazon store or a link to your Shopify store. Really, it's just us making sure that we do our due diligence to make sure that we are completely compliant, seeing as we're like a regulated and licensed with a lot of banks globally.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that's what I say. It's 24 to 48 hours typically, so it's nice and quick.
Yeah, makes it nice and easy for them sellers to get on board. So what are the costs involved with using you as a payment service provider, and how would this compare with others on the market? So give us a bit of an elevator pitch or something like that for Payoneer, Tom.
I'll have to leave this to the sales guys really within the team, because it would really depend on volumes, is the honest answer.
Yeah.
Payoneer's standard fee typically is between sort of 1% and 2%. However, if there are sort of volumes that are not local, i.e. they are international payments, so there's a lot of FX requirements, then there are obviously some different thresholds that we can put in place based on volume. So it's very difficult to me to give a direct answer to fees at this stage, because as I said, it really does depend. We are extremely competitive. I'd say that the majority of people that have a conversation with us, if they're already with one of our competitors that may be like World First or Wise, it's very rare that we won't be able to have a really strong conversation on, one, what the value adds are, two, can we save you money either from a different product or from the current FX offering that they have in place. I think the biggest differentiator to notice here is that I'm not saying a lot of other payment providers don't have this, but I think what the feedback that I get from a lot of businesses that come from our competitors is that we have CSM managers, which is customer success. Our customer success team are extremely experienced. They only have about 100, 150 clients that they manage at any one time. And their job is to manage our VIP customers, which typically are turning over sort of 15, 20, 25,000 per month. Yep. So providing you're sort of hitting roughly around those thresholds, which I think most of your clients at GE are, you will be a managed customer, which means that you have a dedicated customer success manager. They'll then be able to work with you to make sure that your pricing is as efficient as possible, but also to make sure that your payments flows are streamlined across your D2C sites, your marketplaces, etc. So yeah, I mean, there are additional benefits. But remember that Payoneer also has such a broad number of services, including that advance on capital, including the card, including the FX, because that is a real growth tool. And if you have an account manager that's helping you do that, along with the green channel we discussed earlier, it's a really powerful partner to have on board.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I speak to clients every day, and when I inform them, let them know that if you in the warehouse, you'll get a CSR, or if you're getting VAT services with us, then you'll be allocated a VAT officer. Having a point of contact, and first a physical point of contact, someone that you can drop an email to, pick up the phone and contact, because a lot of these services, it is the great unknown for people. They're not sure completely where they're going. And to have an expert on board, as I said, a point of contact where you can reach out to them, they'll be able to advise you on strategy, on how to move this forward. It really, really resonates, I believe, with every client, and it's a service that everyone would benefit from. So, what trends are you seeing in the market currently that sellers should be aware of?
Trends. I looked at this. I got asked this question the other day. Actually, it was really interesting. Some of the answers that came up from a few sort of different providers within the space, and I think it goes without saying. What I've seen in terms of who the winners are within the e-commerce space are the ones that have ridden the wave, that have not necessarily pulled back, but actually taken it as an advantage to push forward. And what I mean by that is that, throughout COVID, throughout Brexit, throughout what we're really seeing is a bit of a downturn in terms of sales, because, things are slowly getting back to normal, and, consumer habits have shifted somewhat, but they're maybe also leveling off to where they were previously. My point here is that a lot of businesses grasped the opportunity when a lot of sellers didn't. So what trends am I seeing? I'm seeing trends in a way that the businesses that push forward, and when I say push forward, I mean continuing to develop products, continue to expand to new marketplaces, continuing to, US businesses expanding into Europe, making that push into that next market has now given them a really, really strong foundation and platform to keep building. So, a lot of US businesses that I speak to, on a daily basis, especially at a lot of the events we go to, will actually say, well, their competitors actually made that move into Europe, and now they're further ahead than them. They've got a brand, they're building their presence, they've tested the market, they're optimizing their ad spend, they got, they're ranked in the top 5 in their industry, their products. So I think when it comes down to trends, I think it's really doing your market research to make sure that you expand at the right time. When you know that you're expanding at the right time, put all of your effort into, actually doing that correctly. So jump in with 2 feet and really understand your audience in those markets. So that would be certainly a key trend that I would make people aware of. And I also think a lot of brands need to be very aware of what the opportunity is outside of Amazon, and not even just marketplaces, but also sort of more D2C sites, so the likes of Shopify. From my own experience, Amazon is an amazing foundation. It builds a huge amount of traction. It teaches you a huge amount. as you start sort of being successful in US, UK, Europe, etc., and you need to start looking into other areas, different marketplaces can be a really strong way of doing it. Amazon are not the leader in all marketplaces. Places like Poland and the Netherlands and a few other places, there's some really prominent marketplaces which I know GE can also help you expand to. And then I would also say that Shopify, as Tommy said earlier, it's all a margins game. E-commerce is, as a concept, fairly straightforward to get your head around, but to get products that give you that best return on investment is really important. And I think Shopify is a really good way of looking at that. And I think one of the best things we did is move into a 3PL, because Amazon fees are expensive, especially when you have too much stock. So having a 3PL, a third-party logistics center, which I know we've partnered with Global eCommerce Experts for their 3PL services, and it's a great way of cutting costs, drip feeding into Amazon, but also facilitating those web store sales as well. So anything that comes through on Shopify, on Facebook, Instagram, etc., you can also then facilitate outside of Amazon. So I'd say really be mindful of all those things. So maybe more tips rather than trends, but hopefully that makes sense.
No, that's a fantastic answer, Tom. And just going to add to that, really, that's a conversation I'm having on a daily basis with our clients. Amazon, brilliant visibility, traction, as you said, to build your business, record some sales. But once you start successfully selling on Amazon, it's like having money for old rope, really, isn't it? Adding yourself onto these marketplaces. Why would you not get that extra visibility? And then, touching on the Shopify, the D2C, Squarespace, all of them websites. The margins on that is that's where you're going to make your most margins if you're selling it directly as such. We have open API integration in our warehouse here with all of them platforms. So if there are any sellers listening and thinking about that, then you know where we are to reach out. And also apologies if you do hear a bit of background noise as well, all our listeners. We do have some racking going up, so I thought I'd get that in. So moving on, what are some of your clients' feedback with Payoneer?
Yeah, look, I'd like to say it's all positive. With 5 million customers globally, I'm sure there's always a mixture of feedback. I think from the customers that I speak to, everyone is always extremely positive about Payoneer in terms of the products that we have, in terms of the onboarding, in terms of the customer success. So I think feedback-wise, some of the real benefits come from how diverse our products are. I know that a huge amount of our customers are really impressed with how we are so in tune with the e-commerce industry. We have been designed and we've been structured around helping likes of Amazon and Walmart sellers to expand. So that's a really key point. And I think the way that we differ, especially when it comes down to the likes of different verticals of e-com. So, we talk about private label brands that really need help, hand-holding to make sure that their brand stays visible, to make sure that they, have a complete inline payments flow that's optimal in all areas. That comes from our CSM team, and the CSM team and customer success team have a great relationship with all of their clients. Will be around a huge amount of time for them. So that's a really important point. I think for drop shippers, again, really being understanding of the drop shipping model. A lot of other FX firms or like payment providers aren't able to deal with drop shippers due to some of the risks that are involved. Whereas Payoneer, have been doing it for a very long time. We're very experienced with the different models, therefore can be, really confident with the customers that we work with. In terms of feedback, I'd say that on the whole, it's always positive. I don't ever hear anything negative, which is great. Of course, as a regulated company, we always have to do various checks and make sure that we go through proper KYC and AML processes from a risk perspective. But apart from that, it's a great product. It's really easy to use. There's an app, you can log in on your computer. We have plenty of integrations as well. Like if you're a Limworks customer and you're using them for inventory management, then you can log in via Payoneer through their platform, which we're looking to integrate many more other SaaS and platforms in the near future. So that's sort of some of the feedback.
Yeah, thank you for that answer, Tom. That's another in-depth bit of information which I think would be valuable to any e-commerce seller. So that about wraps us up for today. So first of all, thank you very much for your time today, Tom. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your wealth of knowledge on the e-commerce ecosystem, as we call it. Next week, we're going to be looking at shipping and customs and talking you through an in-house shipping company, Global eCommerce Logistics, and how you can expand seamlessly. If you do want to reach out, email expand@globalecomexperts.com, or on socials, you can find us highlighted on the top of the screen. And finally, to find all our free content, please go to our website or YouTube and see how GE can help you expand your business.